Hello and welcome to the post-Super Bowl edition of This Week at the Park. I am Brian Tinsman from Redskins.com. This episode of This Week at the Park is brought to you in part by Stryker. Join us at Redskins Park. It's on 6 p.m. on Wednesday, February 12th for Stryker's free joint pain seminar featuring orthopedic surgeon James Reeves. Register today by calling 1-888-STRYKER. Super Bowl 48 is in the books. The Seattle Seahawks walloped the #1 offense of all time in the Denver Broncos, coming away with a 43-8 victory. Would love to hear the thoughts of our panel today as we have Flint, Michigan's finest with us, Chris Wilson, and Tarek El-Bashir from CSNWashington.com. How you guys doing today?
Great.
Doing great.
All right.
I'm even happier that I was right about my pick.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was wrong.
Yes, you were.
And Chris and Rich, who could not be with us this morning, both picked the Broncos. And Chris, I'd love to start with you.
Let's do it.
Let's hear exactly what you thought was going to happen, and then what actually what happened that made that not happen.
Well, the Seahawks were who we thought they were. They did what we thought they were going to do. Very physical. It's a great team. I gave the Seahawks the X variable. I didn't expect it to be a snap for a safety.
On the first play.
That's an X variable.
Devastating.
But nonetheless, I said the Seahawks are going to win the X variables, but I expected the Broncos to make an adjustment and at least make the Seahawks readjust once.
Yeah.
They just came out and played, line it up. And NFC teams, especially the Seahawks, is not the team you want to do that, especially defensively.
They might have had some adjustments. We just never got to see them because Percy Harvin took that kick right back.
Man.
And I'll tell you a funny story about Percy Harvin. I covered him in high school.
Okay.
In the championship game, believe he went to Lansdowne. It was against Robinson, which is here in Fairfax. And he scored 4 touchdowns and had 385 yards of total offense. And afterwards compared himself to Michael Jordan. As a 17-year-old junior.
You can do
I
that.
was like, that's
you can do that in high school.
Right.
You can do that in high school.
I mean, he had like an interception return for a touchdown, a punt return for a touchdown. I mean,
I was happy for him.
Yeah.
Because he fought all the injuries.
Yes.
And a lot of people I don't know him personally, but I know a lot of things that he does in the community and giving back and things like that. So I was really happy to see him not only play and win the Super Bowl, but be able to contribute the way he did.
As much as that snap on the opening possession hurt them, I mean, that was the dagger. Harvin going back. I was like, that's it. Where are the chips? I'm ready to stop paying attention now.
I hawked him down from behind too.
Did you really?
Look it up.
What find
He was
that
with
tape.
the Vikings.
The thing that I thought was really
at FedEx
interesting
Field.
about that opening snap.
Had the angle, but still, I'll take it.
He's still going on about hunting
I'll
down
take
Harvin.
You know how fast that guy
We're
is?
gonna
fast.
we're gonna find this play. We will have it for you next
Minnesota
week.
Vikings in FedEx Field. Look it up. On special teams, on kickoff.
Love it.
Now, was he full speed when you caught him, or?
It was game.
Okay.
He was running as fast as he
I mean,
could.
had he just cut? Was he holding up for a moment?
Look it up.
All right. Let's check it out. But a thing that I thought was interesting coming out of the game, especially considering the first play of the game, John Fox said that, and I think that this is part of where Super Bowl experience doesn't necessarily help you, told his team before the game, apparently, that the Super Bowl crowd is not as loud as your average crowd. So they turned down the volume during practice, which is a really bad idea going against Seattle's 12th man.
Right.
12th man travels.
Right, and they said before or after the game that before that play, they never heard the snap count, and Manny Ramirez just kind of winged it. He thought he heard it, he didn't hear it clearly, and it goes sailing over Peyton's head.
I don't know, because I seen the leg go up. So was it a snap count to here? Because the leg went up.
True.
Well, I did.
But he was clearly not looking for the ball when it came.
Yeah, and like
He was looking over here.
He was making one of those gestures and
You
trying
never
to
know.
throw off the defense.
You never know. It could have been a fake leg go up. That could have been a hard count leg go up. But
At the same
went
time,
up.
John Fox should have had some clue as to how loud that stadium was going to be so they could work on silent count during the week, because apparently they didn't do any preparation.
I mean, you got 2 weeks.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
And it is the championship game.
Yeah.
You got to
be
all your eyes.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, the thing that was interesting is that it wasn't so much the fact that Seattle played better than anyone expected. I really think that a lot of people could have predicted that going in. But the fact that Denver really didn't even show up. It was not a competitive game.
Yeah.
Where does the blame fall in all of that? Is that, is that a coaching thing? Is that a preparation, or is that the
football.
players?
Football, it's only so many X's and O's in football, and then it's time to play football. And that's the X's and O's are the fine things that separate elite athletes. However, sooner or later, you're going to have to beat your opponent in a physical, in a mental type of way.
The Seahawks beat the will out of the Broncos.
I didn't see a fight break out.
Yeah.
I didn't even see a Bronco push a Seahawk after a play.
Yeah. I mean, every single hit. I mean, the Seahawks were playing like, I mean, they meant it.
Lights out.
Every hit, they were trying to make
And they were selling out, too.
hurt.
They weren't second-guessing themselves like, maybe it's this play, maybe it's that play. They were selling out. It was fun to watch.
You know, I think actually the best hit that I saw from a Broncos jersey all night was in the front row in front of me where the fans were getting at it a little bit. That was really the best that they saw.
It's sad, too, because the guys are champions. They got there, but it was nothing like the week before.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that is going to be talked about ad nauseum for the next month, years, decades, where does Peyton Manning fall after this game? Because I said it going into this game that he needed this game.
Yeah.
This was a legacy game for him.
I don't think so.
And he flopped. I mean, that was a poor performance on his part. And you can say what you want about the offensive line. You can say what you want about his receivers. He had some really bad throws out there. And you're talking about a guy who you want to call the greatest of all time.
Oh, yeah, he's in the conversation because he changed the whole
game. After that game?
Absolutely. I mean, how old is Peyton Manning, first of all?
Okay, well, let's look at his performance in big games, though.
He's
sub 500 in the playoffs. His younger brother has more rings than he does. I know he is. He is
I got
a great player.
I got one name to kill that whole philosophy. Dan Marino.
Yeah.
And Dan is the man.
Right.
So, I mean, Peyton Manning got a ring. He's a great quarterback, hands down. You can't argue with that.
I
think the only reason
but great test is the point I think Brian's trying to make. I mean, when you
it's an argument. It's like that. I mean, but he's in the argument easily.
I just don't think he wins it.
I mean,
he'll probably throw 2 interceptions.
Well, it depends on what you like. It depends on what you like. I mean, look at Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
The Randall Cunningham-esque. That type of quarterback. Some people don't like that. Some people like the Peyton Manning. Some people like the guy with the super strong arm that doesn't necessarily.
But after what Russell Wilson did, you can see the game is clearly moving in that direction. You look at Kaepernick, you look at Wilson, you look at maybe if Griffin has a year like he did his rookie year.
You got to have players that can do it, and you got to know when to pull the trigger because this is the NFL, and if you do it too often,
they'll catch up.
They'll catch up to you.
That's very true. Now, I mean, you look at a guy, the flip side of the ball there. A guy like Russell Wilson. What does that do for his stock at this point? I mean, how do you gauge his?
I kind of put him in a place with like Ben Roethlisberger when he won the Super Bowl at such a young age, and I think there's nowhere to go but up because he's always improving. He has the chip. He's short. He's always trying to improve. But
he's still 6 feet tall, isn't he?
Yeah, he's short. I mean, how can he? I don't even know how he can see, but he's very poised.
Yeah,
he's very poised. He's very strong. I mean, if you watch him sometimes in slow motion, he's so low to the ground.
Yeah.
And his legs are so strong to come up out of that, and he doesn't panic.
Yeah.
He will take a sack.
But you know what I find really interesting, and I had to do a little research on it. I mean, so he's going into his 3rd year next year. There's no way for him to capitalize financially on what he just accomplished in his 2nd year.
But he will.
Because eventually he'll cash in.
And this is
why he's still going to make like $500,000 next year. It's crazy.
This is why the game
made $20 million.
Yeah, this is why the game of football is such a team sport because if his teammates rally behind him, we already know about what Golden Tate said.
Yeah.
And they put themselves in a position to win, now everybody is successful financially. So if they have to do that an extra year, so be it. But at the same time, his stock is high. His stock cannot fall in 1 year.
Not only that, but the fact that he isn't getting paid next year makes them strong contenders.
It helps. But he was sitting next to Jay-Z at the Nets game, which means they're talking about some marketing deals, I think.
He might be another super
contract. That agent better be worried. Stay tuned for segment number 2. We'll talk about what all this means for the Redskins. Segment number 2 brought to you by the Washington Redskins Kids Club. Remember that members are invited to the mini football combine at Redskins Park on Saturday, February 23rd at 10 a.m., featuring football drills, player appearances, and more. Visit redskins.kidsclub.com for more information. We're talking the Super Bowl as a scouting opportunity because you know that's what happens. All these guys come out of it. If they are free agents, they get overpaid because that ring talks. So I got some names for you, just to float out there. I want to know if you guys are interested in any of these guys, all of these guys, and how they might fit into the Redskins if you're playing GM. You got Golden Tate. Doug Baldwin is a restricted free agent. Michael Bennett had a great year. Walter Thurman in the secondary, and even Steven Hauschka. There is that argument there. You want to go for kickers. From Denver, you got Eric Decker, Noshawn Moreno, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, Sean Phillips, and Wesley Woodyard.
Okay.
So there's some big names there.
Wesley Woodyard can play. He hits hard, but I think at some point he lost his starting job there for a bit. So that makes me a little worried. But I mean, you look at the Redskins' needs. One of their biggest needs is somebody, a big time player to play opposite Pierre Garçon. Take some of the pressure off of Pierre, so he's not doubled on every single time he leaves the line.
Who are we talking about?
Eric Decker's going to want too much money. Eric Decker's going to want too much money.
And he made that pretty clear after the Super Bowl. He said he's going to hit free agency.
Yes, and so Bruce Allen would be wise to kick the tires and see what he could do there. You don't want to overpay Eric Decker.
Who doesn't?
Maybe the Redskins might, but I mean, they do have a history of doing that. But I mean, Doug Baldwin, very impressive. Very, very impressive. Golden Tate, you mentioned a minute ago that he has already floated out there. He would take less money to sign with the Seahawks. But you know what? I think he'd be a legitimate number 2.
He understands.
He's about 900 yards, so somewhere in that range last season. That'd be a good fit.
I like his mentality.
Yeah.
He's kind of Pierre Garçon-ish out there on the field, play in and play out.
Yeah, he's got attitude. He plays with attitude, for sure.
Also, remember the things that are said after the Super Bowl don't necessarily mean anything. Right. Anquan Boldin.
I love you guys.
Yeah. Anquan Boldin was going to retire if he wasn't a Raven.
Right.
Yeah. But then he remembered that he's going to make $6 or $7 million.
Right.
Off to San Francisco he goes. So, looking at the defensive side of the ball, there's clearly some guys that could contribute as well. You mentioned Wesley Woodyard. Sean Phillips, definitely a little long in the tooth, but he's still got some play left in him. Walter Thurman, and I was actually going to ask, you're talking about this has got to be a big year for big defensive backs. Anybody who's coming out in the draft right now?
Talking about best practices, and you got to imagine there are 31 general managers that are looking at the Seahawks defense and going,
they're all 6 feet tall.
We need some 6'3" cornerbacks, don't we? Because you know what? Wide receivers are getting bigger. They're getting more athletic.
They have to be legit, though.
Yeah, you're right. You can't get 6. You can't get a 6'4" stiff.
You can't go get any beauty pageant winners.
But you know what? I mean, as well as D'Angelo Hall played last year, watching him go up against the likes of Calvin Johnson, you're like, he's given up 4 or 5 inches on this guy.
You're gonna do it.
You need some taller defensive backs, even just for matchup purposes. I mean, I know none of those guys are available from the Seahawks, but you know what? I mean, there's some guys that are going to be available in free agency and also in the draft. I mean, I think the Redskins would be wise to start looking at some bigger defensive backs.
And the other thing that I mean, certainly you have a point there. Josh Wilson is one of the smaller guys. Yeah. But
fullback.
Right, exactly. But when you have bigger guys in the secondary, that also allows you to move them to a tight end. You can move a safety to cover a receiver.
Absolutely.
We saw that all game long during the Super Bowl is Cam Chancellor going out and splitting wide and covering the wide receiver.
He's not available?
No, unfortunately, I don't believe he is.
And that's who I was going to bring up. You talk about, what is he, 6'3", 230,
235. He's a middle linebacker.
He's a big man.
They're playing safety. And I know the game is starting to do a lot of fines and things like that. And Merriweather is a guy who is he imposes his will, so to speak, and it's about intimidation, those guys. So I think that's the only thing you can do against a Calvin Johnson.
Yeah.
You just had a Jimmy. I remember we played against the New Orleans Saints and got a hold of Jimmy Grant. So you got to strike fear. We got to figure out how to strike fear in these guys.
And remember the last time the Redskins played the Saints, who was covering Jimmy Graham? London Fletcher. That did not work out very well for the Redskins.
Well, he got hit by a safety. I think it was Madu Williams.
Yeah.
That really kind of shifted things. But
I do remember him just getting a very easy touchdown.
I like the fact that they have a
head.
name, that they have a gang.
Yeah.
the Legion of Boom.
I love
Yes.
that.
Yeah,
And
that is
it's-
pretty cool.
A lot
isn't
of
it?
things just goes into the just winning mentality, and it's a team winning mentality.
Yeah.
I'm not so much. I mean, you have to win your matchup,
Right.
but they figured that out.
I mean, in my estimation, I think the Redskins need, if they do not bring back Josh Wilson, they need to bring in one starting caliber cornerback to play opposite D'Angelo Hall. I think as good as David Amerson looks like he's going to be, he's not there yet. So maybe you go out and get an Aqib Talib or someone like that for 1 or 2 years. Let Amerson still settle in as your number 3. Maybe increase his playing time. When you think he's ready to become a starter. But I think it'd be a mistake for this team to believe that D Hall and Amerson are ready to be your outside corners and then just fill in the blank with E.J. Biggers and other people. You need to go out and get a cornerback. And I probably would say, and I like Brandon Merriweather. I like the fact that he scares other receivers.
Another big guy.
Receivers
He's a big
look,
guy.
yeah, receivers look around because they know 31 is out there,
Right.
and they know he's not afraid of paying the fine. So,
Right.
they just need someone to play opposite end. I mean, could it be Phillip Thomas? Maybe. But he's coming off an injury.
Right.
Could it be Bakari Rambo? Did he have a rough rookie year? Maybe.
We'll see.
But I think maybe that's another position that needs to be addressed.
Like you say, either way you go, when you win the Super Bowl, everybody's play is exaggerated
Yeah.
True.
in a positive way.
Yeah. That's a great point. That is true.
From a schematic standpoint, I mean, we heard all week about how the Seahawks, and everyone knows what they're going to run.
Right.
They tell you what
They
they're
just do
gonna
it better.
run. And they
They
just
do
do
it
it
so
better than
well.
everyone else.
Yeah.
Is there something that can be taken away from that? Because all that we've heard from Washington over the last 3 or 4 years is about how they can be more creative. They can, there's more that they can do. Is that just a personnel standpoint, or is there actually something to the scheme of running something, a few things better than
Definitely.
anybody else?
It definitely
philosophy.
Is. It definitely is. I mean, certain teams play that way. A lot of NFC teams play that way.
Right.
And I think that's why the Redskins chose to keep Sean around Sean McVay, and because some things that you're doing so well, you can't just take out, and
Right.
and they understand that.
I really admire teams. It doesn't matter what sport that say this is how we do things,
Right.
and we're going to do it better.
Philosophy.
Ask Jim Boeheim about the zone. He's not running man to man.
Right.
He runs his zone and gets to the Final Four every other year.
And you were making some good points about DBs, but I kind of want to jump on and say with the 3-4,
Yeah.
you need continuity.
Yeah.
You need guys to understand their leverages and understand other guys' leverages,
Right.
so they can be aggressive in a certain way.
Right.
I don't know how long the Legion of Boom has been together, but you can tell they have chemistry and continuity. They know where each other is at, even if
Right.
they're not doing the defense technically correct.
Right.
It makes it right, because when Chancellor comes up to hit a receiver running a crossing route, I was like, okay, maybe Peyton is going to do something and try to hit him deep. I mean, that's a big safety coming down very hard.
Right.
But you see cornerbacks getting back and
Automatically driving back because they know what he's going to do.
because they understand. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to have that.
Yeah.
Now, I got to ask you guys real quick before we get out of this segment. Cold weather Super Bowl. I mean, they really dodged the bullet.
It snowed the next day.
It rained the hour after the game.
Yeah.
It snowed within hours after the game. I mean, that's really dodging the weather bullet.
Right.
Not this game,
Right. But does it?
because everybody played.
Right. But imagine if it had rained during the game and it was the blowout that it was. Peyton could sit back. Not that he would, but everyone would sit back for him and go, it was raining out. I mean, that helps Seattle. There's no excuses with a game like
No
that.
excuses.
Does that open up the door for another cold weather Super
Football
Bowl?
is an outdoor game.
Oh, yeah.
It is meant to be played in the elements, right? I mean,
Yes.
I bet some of your best memories of playing were snow games.
You won't forget it.
Those are great. I love
Yeah.
watching those games.
Yeah.
I actually would have relished a little bit of snow, not a foot of snow,
Oh, I
but
would've
a
loved
little bit of
flurries.
snow. That would have been pretty neat.
The backdrop
I mean,
would
at
be
least
amazing.
get the right things out there. Heated benches, the right
Yeah.
type of gear under
I mean,
there, so you don't.
you know, Chicago, Denver,
Right.
Washington, Philly, they're all lining up right now because they're like, look, it worked in New York. We have the hotel rooms, we have the attractions, we have the infrastructure, we got the metro, we got trains. We can get people to and from the stadiums. You know they're going to do it. I think really it's a matter of time before the Super Bowl's played outdoors again.
And they took care of the
In a
fans.
cold weather, yeah.
And that's what counts.
Yeah.
That's what counts. All right, coming up in segment number 3, we're talking about the rest of the offseason. Yes, there is still things to come. Stay tuned. All right, in segment number 3 of This Week at the Park, up right now, nominations for the 7th Annual Virginia Lottery Super Teacher Awards are open. To nominate your super teacher, visit vasuperteacher.com. Deadline for nominations is Valentine's Day, so if you love your teacher, make sure you do that. Pro Bowl, thoughts this year? How'd it go? Alfred Morris having a big game. Level of competition, arguably higher, and score dramatically lower.
It's awesome. I mean, didn't it come down to like a conversion at the end?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this. I have tried to force myself in years past to watch the Pro Bowl. By the second quarter, I'm flipping through, and the Grammys were on. There was stuff going on.
Yeah.
I couldn't take my eyes off it because you know what? Those D lines, they were. I mean, Drew Brees. Yeah. If I were Sean Payton sitting at home, I'd be like, oh my God, my starting quarterback is about to get knocked out with a knee injury.
I think what the draft did was it added the natural competitiveness that all athletes have. And it kind of stirred them up enough to make them compete a little bit. I think that's what we didn't see that coming, because you see guys get picked last, and it's like, whatever. And it's like you got a little bit of an edge now,
as opposed
to getting babied, or not baby, but you know, the red carpet treatment, the whole Pro Bowl, and then you get to the game, and it's like, this is great.
And no one got hurt, if I remember correctly. I don't remember any injuries coming out of that
nothing
game.
Dramatic, no.
They're pros.
Yeah, I also liked the cutaways to Deion Sanders. I mean, he was one of my favorite players growing up. And just seeing his reaction and walking around with the towel around his neck, you know, I mean, it was almost like he was coaching the game, you know?
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
He loved it too.
I enjoyed the process. I mean, I think long term, before this game, I was generally concerned about the long term outlook for this game. I felt like it was going the way of the dodo bird. But you know what? I think after that one,
I see a future. And I'm going to give you this one for free, NFL. They got away with the draft, and it worked because they added the competitive edge. But if you add some of the – I remember being a kid watching the strongman competition, the fastman competition. There's so much.
Accurate throw and all.
Roger, this is the date. I'm not going to even copyright this, but I would appreciate a little something. Check it out. How about a Pro Bowl combine? But they're not going to run and stuff like that. You're not going to just wear them out like they do at the real combine.
Skills competition.
But you bring the skills back and you bring that aspect back. As a kid, that was it for me. More so than the Pro Bowl. I wanted to see how many reps Junior Seau can do.
I will tell you this, and
I want to see the guy.
I like your idea, and you know what? You know who else does this? The NHL does this with the skills competition the night before the actual All-Star game.
Right.
I'll watch the skills. I want to see who has the hardest shot in the league. I want to see who's the fastest skater in the league. That's more interesting to me than the actual game, because you know it's just going to be pond hockey the next day.
And more importantly, those guys want to know that stuff too.
That's for free.
That's where the competition comes in. I mean,
you want more
guys,
ideas like that? You got to hit me on Twitter.
Throw your handle out there.
CWill95. They can find me. They know how to find everybody.
They're already found. Don't worry about it. These are not the people you need to worry about.
Nah, they can find you.
Now, I actually caught up with Alfred Morris on the red carpet NFL honors. Talked to him a little bit about being the team's leading receiver. And he talked about how basically coming out of training camp the last 2 years, he had worked on his receiving skills, was really excited about that being part of the game, and then that page is just taken right out of the playbook. With Jay Gruden, you know, with a new offensive scheme and clearly showing that he can do it, he can do the job of receiving out of the backfield, do you expect to see a little bit more of that this year?
Maybe. I mean, I certainly, it was apparent, especially in the finale, that he has worked hard on his hands. You got Roy Halou to do that job. That's his job. I mean, he is the receiver out of the backfield. I don't know.
But you have tendencies.
Yeah, if you have tendencies, then it's predictable.
I'm a defensive guy.
Yeah, and you know about Roy Halou too. Yeah.
Well, hey, Outback, get ready to run a play action.
I mean, you always want your players to be more versatile. I mean, of course, but I don't know if you're going to start seeing him up there with 30, 40 receptions or something like that.
Right. You don't have to do that, but you have to let the defense know that this is an option for us. Got to be balanced.
Now, over the next really 2 weeks until the combine, it's a little bit of a quiet time for the NFL. You know, there are several of these stretches in the offseason. Really, July is the biggest one.
Right.
But, you know, there are little breaks in between the events that happen throughout the NFL offseason. It's pretty quiet this time of year. You know, we're going to hear about a few re-signings. You know, the coaching staff is finalized. We're going to hear about restricted free agents coming up. But there are no major injuries, no major rehabs, no major storylines to follow right now. is that a good thing for this team? Do they really need kind of a quiet offseason? Maybe not in terms of moves, but in terms of drama.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's focus on football. Aubrey Pleasant was retained, by the way. Great coach
Flint,
on the
Michigan's
rise.
finest.
Great coach on the rise. Just be on the lookout for
He's going
Aubrey
from the
Pleasant.
offensive side to the defensive side, though, right?
Yeah.
He can do it all.
That's a
I
lot.
spoke
He can
with
do it
him.
all.
I interviewed him the other day.
Okay.
And he said that being on offense really helped him because he's been defense his whole
Yeah.
life.
Okay.
So he plays
See things from the other side. Yeah,
right,
that's a
and
good
see
point.
what they're trying to do. So
Yeah.
now that he's going back on the defensive
Yeah.
side, he can really understand how teams are trying to attack him, the concept. And this is the steps. This is the process. This is just what it takes. You know, you can't microwave chicken. You know, it has to be processed. And this is the molding. This is the foundation for a great coach in the future. I
Sorry
don't
for
know
the
how
delayed
long-
reaction to that. It took a second to. I can't microwave chicken.
Yeah, you get sick.
I don't cook. But that's
Please don't try to
All
microwave.
right. Well,
I mean, you can reheat it, though. I mean,
Well, I'm
he
talking about
said
cooking
cook.
it.
okay.
I'm talking about cooking it.
But
That's
you're,
fine.
you know.
Yeah, you can reheat it in the microwave.
Right.
Yeah,
Getting back to your original point, though, you're right. I mean, mentally, emotionally,
being mentored.
you know, there was so much drama at the end of that year. These players, this
Right.
coaching staff, they
need a break.
They just need to just back away, go find a palm tree, turn the cell phone off,
Yeah.
and just get recharged because you know what? Before you know it, OTAs are going to roll around,
Mm-hmm.
and guess what? I don't know how many players know this, but there's an extra OTA
Yeah.
when you get a new head coach.
Extra
so,
week.
Yeah, so there's going to be more
Rob
practices.
Jackson is in the weight room, by the way. This is called This Week at the Park, and Rob Jackson is in the weight room
I
right
saw
now.
him walking down there, yeah.
Pierre Garçon talked to him at the Super Bowl as well. He said that he and Robert have like 4 workouts.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah.
Tuned up.
I saw
So
that.
they're going to Arizona. They're going to Miami. They're going to Waco.
That's
they're
why he
going
can catch
to-
so well. He just catches.
Maybe there's not as much drama between those two as
No.
some people threw out there during
No.
the year.
And if there was, they're going to get it.
They've
They're gonna
squashed
get
it. Yeah, that's great.
Pierre
That's
is
great.
a
That's
fireball.
He's a little,
Seriously.
yeah, he's a little crazy.
So he's fine. Yeah.
I'll tell you, his celebration where he puts the ball down and
Yeah.
then talks to it. That's one of the best celebrations.
What does he say?
I don't know. I've asked him and he just laughs.
I'm not sure we're allowed to say what he says.
Oh. What does he say to the ball?
Now, coming up in 2 weeks, we got the Combine. And I just want to jump in the time machine real quick because we got a lot of time to talk about the Combine. But 8 years ago, you were snubbed from the Combine.
Yes.
Coming out of Division II.
Yes.
What were you doing this time of year? What are these guys doing right now?
I was getting ready to host the first pro day that was held on the soil of Northwood University. That's applause.
First one ever?
Yeah. We used to have to go run at a Michigan
Sure,
or something
sure.
like that, but I held the first one. Brought about 14 scouts out there.
Nice.
Pretty cool.
Redskins?
But no. Not the
Where
Redskins.
is Northwood?
Northwood is in Midland, Michigan. If you're a stock guy, that's where Dow Chemical is.
Okay.
But yeah, I was getting ready just like everybody else. It's a cool side and a bad side because you always dream of being in the combine and you always dream of getting drafted and things like that. But at the end of the day, I just tell myself, hey, it's a lot of guys that went to the University of Miami
Yeah.
who didn't play in the NFL. So you're fortunate, you accept your road. But you get ready just as hard, just as strong.
Well, we got lots more Combine coverage coming up in the next couple weeks. Make sure that you keep tuning in to This Week at the Park. For Tarek, for Chris, I'm Brian Tinsman. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week.